Hi folks, Frank Connors again. Reading from Speaking Frankly again, and the story today is called Remembering Grampie. It's almost the middle of June, and so with it comes Father's Day. So this is called Remembering Grampie. You need to know that my dad died when I was less than a year old, and the male influence in my house during my formative years was my grandfather, Miles Hilton. Miles and a couple of neighbor guys, let's just call them Phil and George, that was their names, handled my upbringing when my mother was distracted, frustrated, or simply figured I needed that male touch. Grampie Miles was an rustic potato farmer who brought his family south during the Great Depression. The story is they got here with what they had in their car, but were thankful for it. In Bodenham, Grampie always kept a small farm as a second job, worked at BIW during the war, worked at Saginaw Fertilizer every spring, worked at whatever he needed to work at to make lines balance at the end of the year. Guess that was one of the first lessons from him to me. He was the guy who convinced me that working the soil was a noble endeavor, not a dirty job. I bet I was 5 or 6 when he roped off a corner of his massive home garden, showed me how I could raise radishes as a cash crop, and then walked with me around the neighborhood when it was time to make the sales. He taught me to drive wheelbarrows, and then he taught me to drive cars. He told me bees would never sting unless they were threatened. People are like that too, he said more than once. I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters, and I don't ever remember Miles raising his voice or his hand towards any of us. If there was disciplining to do, he would take a firm grip of our arm at just below the elbow, pull us out of whatever we were doing and out of the words, "That disappoints me, Frank." And the correction would be made. When my first grandson Jaden was born 4 years ago, I gave him a couple Maine books for his first Christmas and attached a 4-page list of stuff that he needed to do before I got too old. We crossed off several lines from that list already and have added still more items to be concluded. I have to consider that list is a constant work in progress and realize that living the list is helping me stay young. When Silas, grandson number 2, came along in January, the impulse was to create yet another list. Soon, however, it was obvious that these 2 boys would need to share the love and the obligation that follows having me as a grandfather. There's a vision shaping in my mind of the 3 of us becoming a troop of musketeers. I just can't wait to get the 2 of them together for a hike across a blueberry-laden field, and yes, now I have to figure a way to get 2 boys over Katahdin's knife edge and still get their grandfather home alive. Last month, Jane, Abby, Silas, and I were at a local greenhouse seeking flowers for the new season. Silas was awash in one of those belly basket, my name for a complicated multi-strap thing that attached him to my chest, facing out. Arms and legs are swinging. He's smiling at every young clerk that comes over to say hi, and I'm remembering when we did the same with Jaden. I think Miles would have been impressed. All this is a tribute and a challenge to the fathers of the world, and a statement to my kids who now have to deal directly and constantly with a grandfather who wants to inject himself into the lives of their children. I hope they always see my actions are coming from a quiet place of love and respect. I hope they stay gentle and keep their kids and kind to their kids and me. I don't want Jaden or even little Silas to feel any pressure, but Silas will be 6 months old, and when I turn 65 in July, and when I'm 70 in 2017, Jaden will be 10. So we don't have a lot of time to waste, folks. And I just hope when my run is over, someone compares me to my grandfather. Thanks for listening.